Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the match review and player review for the game today between Union Berlin and Nottingham Forest. The game itself finished 1-0 to Union Berlin, and to those of you who were in the watch along, thank you for joining. It was a hell of a fun stream. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about the quality of the football that was on the pitch. It wasn't the most exciting game, but we'll get into that. Before we do, don't forget if you're new here to like and subscribe to the channel for all things Forest, including watch-alongs, post-match reviews, pre-match reviews, and everything that's going to be happening during the Premier League seasons, including transfer news as we build up 2 weeks to go before we play Newcastle at St James's Park. So let's get into it and let's start with the actual match review. What I want to start by saying is we were up against a Union Berlin team who are very well organised and a very good outfit. It was a real tough test for Forest. Remember, these guys finished 5th in the Bundesliga last season and just missed out on the Champions League itself. So it was a really good test for us to have. How did we cope with the test? Well, we were the away team as well, let's not forget that, and the stadium was quite full. And this team, a lot of the players are the same from the one they had last season. Obviously, the big change they've had is we've taken their striker, Awoniyi. So they were all very used to each other, and that was clear to see as the match was progressing. They started off the brighter team, they were really high up the pitch against us, pressing well, creating chances, but were very lackluster in front of goal. The goal itself was a bit of a mess. As much as I love Cook, I'm sure he'll hold his hands up and say he was at fault at it. He went to pass it across the line to Mckenna. It was an underhit pass that was intercepted by Union Berlin. Now, what I did like about what Cook did was rather than think, screw it, it's a friendly, he went back to recover it, put a good sliding block tackle into the low cross, and unfortunately that ricocheted back to the player. Cook was still on the ground, unable to recover again, and he was able to cross the ball in low cross from about 4 yards out. The striker puts it in. Henderson had no chance. Following that, though, we did create our own chance with Awoniyi, with a lovely cross in from Johnson. It was almost an identical situation, but he kind of opened his foot up too much and put it wide and missed it. This guy really needs a goal to get him up and running. And once he gets one goal in, he's going to settle in nicely. Following that, there was a few chances. Toffolo had a great shot that hit the woodwork. It would have been lovely to see him scoring a goal. He played well in general. To be honest, the defence, in essence, were playing very well, but they were just under too much pressure. And the midfield, it was good to see O'Brien, and he was working tirelessly, as well. Colback was being Colback, doing the same thing. It was really the front three where you could see the cohesion wasn't there. The interlinking play wasn't there. They weren't pressing the Union Berlin defense high up the pitch. It just felt like there wasn't much energy. Feels to me like Awoniyi's still lacking in a bit of match sharpness and maybe a bit of match fitness. Johnson's only been back 10 to 12 days into full-time training, and Mighten was probably slightly out of his depth on this one. I know it's worth giving him a chance. I've been singing his praises for the last year or two anyway, because I think there's a hell of a player in him. I don't think he's a striker though. I think he's better if he can use his pace to run in on the players behind, but we'll get into that on the individual players review. Overall, it was a really good test. It's better than playing some Conference League team, beating them 5-6-0 and everyone getting overhyped and overexcited about what's going to happen. These are the kind of grinding games that we'd like to see. I think the big disappointment for me was that we didn't counter-attack and break with the pace that we've been so used to last season. Instead of being able to kind of get those quick attacks in down the right-hand side, where before we'd do it with Spence and Johnson interlinking in nicely and working the channel, there wasn't really that much going forward, although Williams himself did have a great game, put in a lot of good crosses as well. But that will come with time. What I said to the guys in the chat, remember, this is a pre-season game. Players are all new. We've signed 11 players. We still haven't even seen our marquee sign up yet. Jesse Lingard with the shirt on, he didn't fly out. So hopefully we'll see him against Notts County on Tuesday. With that said though, let's get into the player reviews and let's go through them one by one. Alright, let's start with the keeper, Dean Henderson. I thought he was man of the match. I'd go that far. He made some outstanding saves. His distribution is fantastic. Works really well under pressure, and you can see he is commanding that back line in front of him. A lot of communication happening there. He had a few saves he needed to make. He made them. The goal, I don't think he could have done much about it. It was from point blank range, from the mistake. Obviously, there was a bit of panic at the back and what have you. But I would give him an absolute solid 8 out of 10, clearly by a mile. The best player on the pitch for us today. Not much more to say about him than he's just going to progress and get better and better. He got the full 90 minutes under his belt, and I think we got a sound little signing in here. I just wish we had that 20 million option to buy at the end of it, because he is going to be good. Okay, so let's move into the defense and talk about the back three. Mckenna, solid, to be honest, under a lot of pressure, heavy pressure, like I was saying, the way the Union Berlin players were attacking. He held up very well throughout. I don't think it was his fault that the pass was short. He couldn't do much about it. But overall, I didn't really see anything that worried me about him. Solid performance, but we did concede a goal, so it's only fair to kind of give him, I would say, a 7 out of 10 would be a fair reflection of his game, because at the end of the day, we did lose the match. We did concede a defensive goal. Not that he had any involvement in that, but 7 out of 10, I think, is a fair score for Mckenna. If we move on to Joe Worrall, pretty much the same story. He had a solid game, under a bit of pressure again from that side of the pitch. No involvement really with the goal. He did try to recover back into the middle to help out, but it was, you'll have to see the goal to understand what I mean about it, because we were transitioning. It wasn't like we were being attacked. So overall, not much really to add on to Joe Worrall, apart from he played quite solid. He looked at home. We know that anyway in that position. He's under pressure though from Biancone, because he's looking good and strong, and he came on himself as well and had a decent kind of 20-minute outing, I think it was. But overall, I'll give Joe Worrall, I'll just give him a solid 7 just to match Mckenna. So let's move on to Steve Cook. So Steve Cook, unfortunately, at fault for the goal. Played okay. Our fears are probably correct about the pace in terms of what it's going to be like in the Premier League. That's probably where he's going to struggle. For me, 100%, and I'm sure he'll admit himself, goal was his fault. So outside of that, he didn't make too many other errors, to be honest. I'm being kind of harsh on him. I'm feeling a little deflated from the mistake, because getting away from Union Berlin with a 0-0 would have been fantastic, even though they did have a couple of guillotine chances to score that they missed. But 0-0 would have been a great result and we could have built on it. But for me, because and solely because of the error, we're going to have to give him a 5 out of 10, unfortunately. Okay, let's move into, should we go with next? Let's go with Nico Williams. This guy looks good. I've been impressed in the last 2 matches that I've seen him in. It was good to see him against a decent side and how he'd react, and he reacted absolutely fine. His deliveries, again, were fantastic. But outside of that, not really too much to talk about in terms of the attacking prowess, because we were under the cosh quite a lot of the match. Defensively, he held strong, he held firm. I can see him developing into, don't clip me on this, but I can see him being as good as Spence, or if not better. Overall, solid performance. We'll give him just a straight up 7 out of 10. Really good performance. I'm expecting good things from him as well. And on the other side of it, we had, of course, Toffolo there. Toffolo is looking like he's going to be a decent player for us. He had a lovely shot from about 25-30 yards out, hit the bar. It would have been lovely to see it go in, but it is what it is. Defensively, he looked absolutely fine, looked eager to get forward. He's going to help bring us that balance that we were seeking, where we were too dominant down the right side last season. With Toffolo on the left side, who is willing to go forward, it's going to force us to play a more balanced across the pitch. So for me, Toffolo as well, will give him a 7 out of 10. All right, let's move on into the midfield, and we'll start with our new signing, who I was extremely excited to see, which was O'Brien. And to be honest, you could have told me that he'd signed for us 2 or 3 years ago. He just slotted right in, worked tirelessly from minute 1 till he came off. He looks like he's going to be really good for us in that midfield area, helping win the ball back and starting off the attacks. He didn't really do anything wrong to me. Didn't really get much in terms of the attacking third, but because it was a hard day for the midfield, both for him and Colback. They had to put in the legwork and the miles today, and he was more than willing to do that. So I was very pleased with his performance overall. Another couple of matches is going to bring him up to speed, and he's going to be absolutely fine. again, as a theme here, we're going to give him a solid 7. He was very good, and I'm excited by this signing, and I'm excited to see how he's going to develop with the partnership, whoever it may be in that midfield, be it Yates, be it someone new coming in. He's definitely going to be a starter for us. In today's match, though, he was paired up with Colback, and Colback had a Colback performance. Nothing exciting, nothing boring, nothing, to really write home about. I just feel personally, and you may say I have a vendetta against him. I don't. But I don't think he's going to be good enough for the Premier League. I think he's going to be a good squad player, but as a starter, I don't think he's going to be it. He's just not got the all-round gameplay that I want to see in a midfielder, especially if that position is going to be more the box-to-boxer rather than just sitting around in midfield. We're going to need some creativity in this midfield. To have an O'Brien and a Colback sitting there is just not going to help us with the transition. So we're going to need someone creative in there. Maybe we get Morgan Gibbs-White in. O'Brien can be the holding midfielder. Jesse Lingard in front of that. That will start us off in terms of transition into attack. I don't think this will be a pairing unless we have injuries. And obviously Yates being out at the moment is slightly worrying. But I think he should be back in and around the Newcastle game. But I'm not going to be that harsh on Colback because he didn't do anything wrong. He worked hard. That's the one thing you will always get from him, is a good, honest performance. And again, a 7 out of 10 for him. Okay, into the attack we go, and to my season favourite player from last year, Johnson. Johnson is not a number 10. And I am slightly worried now in back-to-back games as to why Cooper's put him in there. I love Johnson either up front, swinging out to the right, linking up with the midfielder or the right wing back in the overlapping position, or coming in a bit deeper from the right-hand side for the ball in over the top that he can use his pace and attack on. Johnson isn't that player who should be stringing those passes through to the striker. And I don't feel like the cam position is the one that he's really, designed for. So I kind of want to see him back up front. Also, I feel it's a wasted opportunity for him and Awoniyi to strike up a partnership. Partnerships are so important in football. And if you're playing with a strike partner, the more game time you get together in your correct positions, the more likely you can build that chemistry and understanding together. For me, Johnson just wasn't right there. He kind of drifted out of the game a bit. He did try to get to the right-hand side a few times and get a few runs in. On that side, he did produce a lovely cross in for Awoniyi, who should have definitely scored. But I'm going to actually give Johnson a 6 out of 10 for this match. And it's nothing to do with him. It's just I don't think that's his position. And you guys know how much I love this player. But for me, Johnson, a 6 out of 10. Okay, let's move on to Awoniyi, who everyone's talking about and everyone seems to be worried about. And I can, to an extent, understand it from the performances. For me, he doesn't look match fit in terms of not carrying an injury, but in terms of just that general puff that will get him from minute 0 to minute 90 in a match. And you can see that at around the 60-minute mark, he was kind of gassing a bit. And eventually he did come off as well. He is in serious need of one goal. One goal will just open the floodgates up for him and we'll see a raft of them. I am not worried about him, and any people here who are kind of judging him after 2 or 3 preseason games, for me, it's the wrong thing to do. Preseason is preseason. Coming in from Germany into this style of football is different. Into the pressure, the cauldron that is the Premier League is going to be an adjustment period as well. But he will be absolutely fine. He scored 20 odd goals last season in a tough league, in a team that was shooting above their weight in Union Berlin. He is going to come good. He just needs one goal to trigger it off. Let me say this to you: none of you will be questioning Johnson. Johnson hasn't scored a goal in pre-season. Johnson hasn't played great in that cam role, but we all know how good he is. It's going to be the same thing for Awoniyi. Awoniyi was awarded a little kind of ceremony thing before the match out of respect for what he's done for Union Berlin. So that in itself should tell you how good he was and how much he was loved by the fans. There was a standing ovation applause from the crowd as they gave him this lovely little kind of frame picture and what have you. So I'm not worried about him at all. But we are judging it on the game today. He had a chance he should have scored. It was quite an easy chance from about 6 yards out. He just opened his foot up too much for it. So I'm going to give him a 5 because I have to be honest about how I called the game. He's going to come good, don't worry, but it's a 5 out of 10 for him on this one. And last but not least, we have Mighten, who started for us up front. I wanted to see him start because I love this guy and I think there's a lot of potential in him. I didn't want to see him up front. I would have rather seen him out wide. I don't think he's a striker. He needs the grass in behind to be able to use that lightning pace into and run through on it. So I don't really have him down as a striker. I think there's still a debate to be had in general about where he should be starting. And that will become more and more clear as the months and years go by, as we see him develop into a great player. Cooper has a lot of faith in him. I've got a lot of faith in him. But this was a tough team, and this is a team, and we were playing a team where we had to be clinical on the counter attacks, and there just wasn't enough of that going on between the front three in general. In all honesty, the front three today were poor. There's no need to flower it up, but that's how it was. So in general, it wasn't the right game for him, but I understand why he played because his performances pre-season have kind of made him deserving of the chance. And I don't think we should kind of cut him off and shut him down based on that one performance. But it wasn't a great game, and he too is getting a 5 from me. Okay, so that was the starting 11. I'm not going to go through all the subs because there was quite a few of the kids that did come out. But I do want to pick out and highlight maybe one or two who are obviously going to be starting for us next season. And this man is just too good. He really is. He came on, again, played in the middle of the defence. He came on, I think, about half-time. For Cook, and he's just very, very commanding, real unit of a player, got good pace, good balance, pushes the ball forward outside the box, from the defence, up the pitch, and I just really like him, and I've got a lot of time for him, and I think he's going to be absolutely outstanding for us. In terms of this game, didn't really do anything that annoyed me, looked good, comfortable on the ball, but we lost the game. I can give no higher than really a 7 for any player on the pitch for that result. But overall, boys, I'm telling you, this guy, you're gonna, if you don't love him yet, you're gonna be loving him within a couple of weeks when you see the performances he puts in for us. Absolutely outstanding. The other player that we can talk about is Biancone. He came on as well. He's been very, very good. He's been very, very good for us through pre-season. I see his best position being Worrall's position from what I've seen of him so far. Maybe good cover as well for Williams on the right-hand side because he does have a tendency to get forward a lot. So in one of those two positions, he would slot very well. I don't think he's going to start when it comes to the Newcastle game, but he is an option we can bring in off the bench if Worrall's tiring out or Williams needs a break or what have you. He's an option, and potentially, I think he could be used in midfield because he's very good at getting forward as well. Overall, just again, another solid small run out he got. We'll give him a 7 out of 10. But for me, man of the match has to go to one player and one player alone. It was Dean Henderson. Outstanding performance. We really do have a good nucleus of a squad here. Starting from the back, working our way forward. We just need to give it time to gel. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I felt deflated after that game. I went in there, I predicted a 2-1 win to Forest. And I did feel deflated because it had elements of the Burton match. It was a bit boring at times. Luckily, I had, a good couple of hundred people in the stream and we were just talking and kind of making our own plans. But what it tells me is a couple of things, and we'll finish off with this. Forest still need a couple of players in the midfield and they need to be creative. Maybe one more striker. I'm now coming around to the thought of maybe Dennis is going to be a good signing from Watford with his pace, with the Prem experience as well. He may be one that we're going to need to get, but definitely in midfield. Now we have Lingard as well. Lingard wasn't, like I said at the start of the video, wasn't even on the flight. It will be good to see how he performs if he's part of the team when we play Notts County on Tuesday. And we will have that watch along, as we will have every single watch along this season for Nottingham Forest. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you've subscribed to the channel. But overall, if you guys are feeling like I was feeling after the match, a bit deflated, You know, we've had a really hyped up week with the signing of Lingard and the banter with the West Ham fans. And this one is kind of a bit of a leveler to remind us that every game is going to be a grind. So, don't be deflated. Things are going in the right direction. If I told you this time last year that we would lose 1-0 to Union Berlin, you'd have laughed at me. It was a competitive match. I'll grant that it could have been two or three more to Union Berlin, but it wasn't. The score was 1-0 away from home, preseason. Lots of changes. Some good stuff to come out of it. Some stuff that needs improvement on. Cooper doesn't need me to tell him what needs to change and what needs working on. He knows it already. But overall, a very good workout. More minutes under the belt. But Cooper, if you are watching this, please get Brennan back up front. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts and your ratings in the comments down below. And we'll see you tomorrow on a transfer news update for Forest. Come on, you Reds.